I never thought I would be on the show for this particular reason. I woke up the next morning and she was gone. The window was open and she was not in her room. We searched around the house. She was not anywhere in the house. And after that, that's when the panic set in and we immediately called 911.
It's one of the worst nightmares any parents could face. But if that child is 17 years old and you live in Texas, things are even a little scarier. We'll get to exactly why. And why does this case have such little coverage? Thank you to On PD Live for actually giving it some coverage. There's one good news article on PD Live and thankfully some friends on YouTube, but that's about it. I'm going to try to pull together all the details that we can to give you the most comprehensive picture the way we always do. It's time to turn on the searchlight for Sara Martinez. Welcome back to Brain Scratch Searchlight. I'm John Lorden. Thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you for caring about these cases like I do. Let's go ahead and try to get things started like we usually do with a quick stop at NamUs. However, we run right into an immediate problem. You can see in the search section here, I have Sara Martinez literally as the only thing. I don't even have the state selected, and we get 0 possible results. No NamUs profile. There is a profile over at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, missingkids.org. A big thank you to them for always kind of flexing the rules a little bit. I've seen cases as old as maybe 21, maybe even 22 years old that will be put on missingkids.org. And I just appreciate them doing that, trying to raise the exposure any which way they can. However, we could see the profile very thin. We don't even really have vital statistics here. Just Sara Isabel Martinez, missing since December 28th, 2024 from Fort Worth, Texas at the age of 17. And she's a female. We get one extra photo and that is about it. What exactly is going on here? I'm not sure because as far as I know, Texas is actually mandated for entering into NamUs. John and Joseph's law went into effect in September of 2021, and it requires police across Texas to enter cases into the National Public Database within 60 days of someone filing an official missing persons report. Within 60 days, we're now well over, 7 months at this point? So I don't know what's going on there. But interesting to note, terminology loophole. Voluntarily missing. In 2022, a Round Rock police classification about a boy named Timothy Perez meant that his case was not entered into NamUs until his parents created it. The agency said it believed that Perez was voluntarily missing, meaning he intentionally disappeared. Now, you heard the promo. It sounds like Sara might have left on her own. So would it be a crazy assumption on police's part to think that she had voluntarily left of her own accord? I don't think so. What is crazy about it is the aspect of we're talking about a junior in high school that's only 17 years old. Does she really have rights as a full adult? And in Texas, there's this interesting gap in the law that happens specifically for 17 years old. But let's continue with this here. Police made that determination based on interactions that they had with him, where they concluded he wasn't a danger to himself or to others and he wasn't committing any crime. However, months later, his body would be found in Williamson County near State Highway 45. So obviously a tragic outcome that happens there. And I think in a nutshell, that really raises a lot of the issues that we have when looking at Sara's case today. It's not just a sense of, look, they're a 17-year-old. They probably don't have a job. They're probably being taken care of by someone. There's already some aspects of potential, I don't want to say crime happening around that. There are some charges that could happen to the person harboring a teen runaway, but people don't give away things for free. There's some aspect of that person thinks they're going to get something back for doing this act. Maybe it's something simple, like they feel like they're doing a good task for someone else and that's going to come back to them in some way through the universe somehow. But unfortunately, that's not the case in many instances. In many instances, they're looking for more. The Texas law details police are required to enter in a NamUs all available identifying features, including dental records, fingerprints, and other physical characteristics, and a description of the clothing worn when last seen. Timothy's case also highlights something important about that, because, God forbid, Sarah's body is found somewhere and she is unidentified. How are they going to backtrace that to her if we don't have her DNA entered into NamUs? Public users, including family members, can enter cases into NamUs. All public cases are vetted with the investigating agency before being made publicly viewable in NamUs. This is something I've spoken about on the channel several times. You guys know that I've posted things several times, but it is important to note here, once a case is vetted and NamUs obtains permission from the investigating agency, the case is then published for public viewing and searching. And I have had a few cases that basically law enforcement, for some reason, won't let NamUs view those publicly. I think in those instances, it's likely because it's already been determined to be a homicide, but I'm not 100% sure because I've looked at those cases and I can't see any updates on them. All that being said, I have started Sarah's profile and we're going to use that to get the basic details here today. Date of last contact, as I mentioned, it's actually December 29th. She was last seen just after 1 a.m. There was a family gathering on the 28th that she was at. Her mom, the girls had gone to bed. Her mom went and checked on them at 1 a.m. and saw that they were both in their bedrooms. So December 29th is actually the last date of contact. 17 years old, still currently 17 for a few more months. In 2 months, she will be 18. I'm kind of hopeful that if she is out there and she is okay, she will then take that opportunity to contact her family and let them know. And, if she needs to tell them she's not coming home, she could do that. But I just want Sarah, just in case she happens to see this, to know you could do that now and they're not going to force you to go back home. So if you want to help put your family at ease in some way, to know that you're alive, you're okay, you're being cared for somewhere, you're able to do that now. There's no police that are going to kick down the door and try to remove you, as is pretty obvious from how we're going to hear that the detectives have been responding to this case. A female standing at 5 feet 2 inches tall and weighing around 100 pounds. Sara is also American Indian and Hispanic. For circumstances, we have went to bed after a family get-together. Her mother checked her room at 1 a.m. and saw her sleeping. The next morning she was gone and her bedroom window was found open. She only took her book bag, makeup, and cell phone. The phone was shut off at 3:27 a.m. She has black hair. She has brown eyes, but do note her hair. She has very strong purple streaks in it. She also has a few piercings. Her ears and her nostril are pierced. She has a scar on her upper thigh and left wrist. She has a large mole on the left side of her calf above her ankle. Outside of that, for other items missing with her, a black JanSport backpack, and she was last seen wearing a black zip-up sweater, gray sweatpants, and white DC sneakers. She also wears black framed glasses that you'll see in several of the photos here. Where is this happening? We've mentioned it's in Fort Worth, Texas. It's a city in the U.S. state of Texas and the county seat of Tarrant County, covering nearly 350 square miles. It is giant. Fort Worth's population was estimated to be over 1 million people in 2024. It's the 11th most populous city in the United States, and it's the second largest city in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, after Dallas, of course. Big thank you to CBS News. They are basically the only ones to kick out a decent article. There are several other articles, but they're basically just that short reprint of a press release from the Fort Worth Police Department, and that's about it. Samantha Perez pleads with the public for leads on where her daughter may be. She's your average teenager. She spends a lot of time in her room and on her phone, Perez said. Her 17-year-old daughter, Sara Martinez, is a high school junior, and she vanished. Perez immediately filed a missing persons report with the Fort Worth Police Department. CBS News Texas reached out to Fort Worth Police about her daughter's case. In an email, a spokesperson declined an on-camera interview and said investigators from the Missing Persons Unit are considering her an adult runaway. I don't think she's an adult. She just turned 17 and she's enrolled in school, Perez said. So what's interesting to me, based on the limited info we have so far, is I don't know how you would consider her an adult runaway if she didn't take all the items that were important to her or have any reasonable means of taking care of herself. As far as I know, I don't think she has any employment. She's not working anywhere. How is she going to be taking care of herself is obviously a huge question. And the health and safety of someone that's 17, someone that's supposed to still be going to school, should be raised in that. Outside of all that, just because you think a person might be an adult runaway doesn't mean that you don't treat it as an active missing persons case. There's many possibilities that could be going on here. There could be that she went to meet up with someone. It could be that she intended to come home that night and for some reason was stopped from doing so. So it's tough. This would be different if Fort Worth PD was basically saying, we've made contact with her and we are now considering her an adult runaway. And we've told the family that. That's not what's happening here. They're kind of jumping to that last conclusion or step without providing the family with any firm information to say that we know that she's fine, we know she's okay, and we know that she's living somewhere else with someone else, and that's just how it is. That's not what the family's hearing. They're just hearing, yeah, no, we believe that, she left on her own. We know she snuck out, right? I mean, it's outside of someone coming in her window, which I don't think this is that type of situation. I don't know about you guys, but when I was a teenager, did I sneak out in the middle of the night? Yes. Was it ever to run away forever? No. I would be sure to be home before my parents woke up the next morning. I only did it a few times, but I think that's something that teenagers sometimes do. Another similarity I have to this case is I actually moved out at the age of 17, but it was because I was starting to work and I went to live with another family and my family knew where that was. So I don't know how we jumped to this conclusion here. And we're hearing it right from her mom. I don't think she's an adult. She just turned 17. She's a junior in high school. How can this be going on in this way? So I want to give a very big thank you to some new friends of the channel here at Trial Junkies United. In the lower left-hand corner is Zane. In the upper left-hand corner, you might recognize Jody from a previous episode that we've done here. We'll talk about that later. And of course, this is a long-form interview with Sarah's mother, Samantha, who is in the lower right-hand corner there. So I'll have this linked in the description box down below. You can go ahead and tear into it. But of course, I've already gone through the whole thing and I've been working with Zane directly. Thank you so much, Zane, for all your help to pull together all the important details. And I'm going to be giving those to you guys right here, right now. Sara was an honor student and also had aspirations to become a criminologist. She was known to have a small but tight circle of friends and be very close to her family, including her younger sister, which we actually have a photo of the two of them together here. I believe this photo is actually taken from that night. I heard her mother mention that they had gone out to make s'mores basically towards the end of the night, and you can see that's what her sister has here. So there's this family party. They've got other relatives over. The party kind of goes on until after midnight. As I mentioned, the girls are in bed. Mom goes to check on the girls at 1 a.m., sees them both in there. She sleeps in the next day. She wakes up and finds that Sara is gone. Her bedroom window is open. Now, there are apparently cameras covering the front and the back of the house, but for some reason, she's not seen on those. It's thought that she might have hopped a fence that is kind of on the side of the house to avoid being seen. I think that means that she would have actually hopped the fence into a neighbor's yard and then maybe gone out from there. She had never run off before. She took her book bag, her cell phone, and makeup, but no large amount of clothing. And basically, they were having a Christmas celebration here. She took none of her Christmas gifts, which included clothing that she was excited about getting. So kind of strange. Also, just another thing to note, she took her cell phone. If her instinct was really, I'm running away, first of all, I would think that she would pack more. But second, why would she take her cell phone? And if this is a situation where someone was grooming her and speaking to her about what to do, I'm sure number one on that list would have been, don't bring any electronics. On the flip side of that, she has other electronics that she didn't take. She has a laptop she didn't take. So if you are 17 and maybe haven't thought out about being traced electronically or something, you're going to take your cell phone, but you're not going to take your laptop. It seems to me that this the steps that she's taken for this are not about her running away from home forever. To me, this feels like I'm sneaking out in the middle of the night and I'm going to try to sneak home before, maybe before my parents wake up, something along those lines. Now, her mother has, if you watch the interview, you'll see she has some very strong feelings about the detective assigned to the case. But honestly, there was problems even before that. So, they called 911. Hey, my daughter's missing. The initial response apparently took 8 hours. And I kind of found that baffling when I first heard it, but I did also run into information that actually supports it. Here I have a copy of the police report for that missing person's call on December 29th, 2024. And we can see the time of day for the response on this. We know that they did call police around 1 p.m. And basically it looks like 8 hours later makes sense because they're saying that this went on, just this response to this missing person call, from 1:14 p.m. to 10:50 p.m. So many hours there. Outside of that, it was assigned to a detective, and basically the family is told the detective's on vacation. So that slowed down response another 1 to 2 days before there was any contact with that detective and the family. When there was contact, apparently that wasn't great. The detective would tell Samantha that basically they weren't going to search for Sara because as an adult at 17, she had the right to leave. So is that actually true? Let's go ahead and dive into it a little bit more to try to understand it. And I started with a place that I thought would be the authority, the Texas State Law Library. And I found that it's not all that clear. If a 17-year-old moves out, are they considered a runaway? The law on this topic is complex. We cannot give you a definitive answer, but the sources below provide some general information. First of all, I don't even consider her moved out. If she didn't take her personal items with her, she didn't actually move out. But even if that was the condition here, they're having trouble answering that question. And it seems that it kind of depends on what part of Texas you're in. I did find, now admittedly this is from 2000, but this is a matter about the City of Plano Police Department and a ruling that was made on that. We conclude that Article 63009 requires a law enforcement officer who locates a 17-year-old who has been reported as a missing child to take possession of the child and to deliver the child to the person entitled to his or her possession, or the Department of Protective and Regulatory Services. So either way, in Plano, which is, I think, 40, 50 miles away from where Sara's family is, there seemed to be some precedent for, no, if you're the police, you're supposed to take them back into custody, which I would consider means you're supposed to be actively searching for them as well. We also conclude that the detention of an unemancipated 17-year-old against his or her wishes for the purpose of returning the child to his parent or guardian does not violate the child's constitutional rights. So at least back in 2000, it was pretty clear, literally for Plano, Texas. But as I started looking into more current information, this from the Texas Network of Youth Services in May of 2016, it seems like there might have been a shift in things. A minor who is 16 years old or younger can be reported as both a runaway and a missing person. For a minor who's 17 years old, some police departments will take one report, but not the other, both reports, or neither report, depending on the policy of the police department. That blows my mind. In both cases, the police have the authority to find the minor and return him or her to their parents or legal guardian. However, in the case of 17-year-olds, police are not required to return the youth to their parents if they determine that the youth is safe. So again, it's not saying they have the responsibility to find them. It's saying they have the authority to find them. And then once they do, they can make the determination thereon if they're in a safe situation or not, and if they're going to take them home or not. Some police departments will also take a missing persons report on an 18-year-old who is still attending high school, since he or she is still considered a minor. That's so weird to me that the law, first of all, has this much flexibility in the middle of it where it just depends on the police department. But outside of that, 16 or younger, this is treated one way. 17, and then anything after 18, different. But if you're 18 and still in high school, no, we're still going to treat you as a minor. She's still in high school and she's 17. So I don't know. It's very strange, and quite honestly, after looking through all this, I don't have a clear sense of what the law is except for how it was phrased there. Depends on what the police department wants to do. Is that how our laws work here? Not generally. Over at Texas Advocacy Project, another source of confusion stems from the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure requiring law enforcement to investigate a missing child if the child's well-being is believed to be in danger, which in this case, up to this point, is a huge question mark. We really don't know. The basics of this case are extremely simple. There are some other details we're going to get to that might raise that a little bit. However, a recent state attorney general opinion gives law enforcement the right to take an unemancipated 17-year-old into custody in the effort to return her home as a missing child and use all force if necessary, even if her well-being is not in danger. But again, the way all this is phrased is they can, if they choose to, effectively. And we still don't wind up with a firm conclusion on what's happening with this. So back to that big question, is this a situation where Sara is in danger? The earlier story that we heard, police actually made contact with the teenager. Teenager's fine. Teenager winds up dead. I think there is inherent danger with throwing a teenager into the wild like that. They don't understand how the world in general works at that age. You just can't. You don't have the experience. And especially for someone, she has never lived on her own before. She's never even run away previously. So would someone with that specific background have more potential for danger maybe than someone, maybe a kid that did live on the street for a year or two and then later decides I'm running away again? I believe so. But then there's this other component about what's motivating her to leave in that way. And what are the dangerous components around that? And there's potentially one that we're going to bump into here. But another consideration with Sara specifically is Zane over at Trial Junkies United relayed to me that Sara has a history of mental health struggles, basically following her father's abandonment at age 12. He literally walked out of her life and said that he had a new family. So she had a lot to deal with from that age. She was previously on depression medication, but was tapering off of it at the time of her disappearance because of adverse effects. So we've got a teenager dealing with depression, was on medication, but's coming out of it. That's an escalation for me that certainly knocks it into more dangerous territory. And maybe it's because of the cases that we've looked at here on the channel in the past and the history that we've seen, especially around medication changes. There's a lot of weird things that can happen there. Does that range the danger level for me? From my perspective, it does. She had no medication that she took with her when she left, from what I understand. And of course, I always keep pointing back to like all her personal items. Why wouldn't she have taken all that? If this really was a runaway situation, is she really just going to take her backpack and her cell phone? So basically, the detective working with the family advised Sara's mother to hire a private investigator. Thankfully, they did. They hired Blackfish Intelligence. And you might have noticed that we're actually running 2 different contact numbers down below. If you have information about Sara's location, please use the number you're seeing below that says PI. But if you're aware of any criminal act involving this case or involving what's going on with Sara during the disappearance or up to now, please use both of the numbers that you're seeing so that we can also keep Fort Worth PD aware of what's happening with this case and maybe help them shift their perspective on this is simple runaway situation. I hope it is, but we don't know that. So the PI from Blackfish got to work. And basically they found a video from a neighbor, I believe it's across the street from where Sara lives, of a guy pacing around 3:20 in the morning. And what's interesting to note about that is her phone shuts off around 3:27 a.m., like literally 7 minutes after this footage. Now, she's never seen in the footage that was captured there. And of course, we know she's never contacted her family or friends since. A big thank you to her mother, Samantha, for providing the video files to us. We can take a look at these for ourselves here. So we even get some audio with these. And I don't know, basically we've got this guy that's kind of walking around. To be honest, I'm not seeing something that I would consider pacing. He seems to be heading in kind of a linear direction, but I don't know the layout of these cameras. I mean, this could just be a guy walking down the street. Admittedly, his walking there doesn't look like he's really trying to get anywhere quick. I'm also just slightly interested in this movement with his hand here. At first, it looks almost like he's kind of trying to cover his face, like maybe he's worried about someone having a doorbell camera or something. But then he does go into adjusting whatever his headwear is. And honestly, even the footage is even not strong enough to determine what exactly is on his head. I think it looks like a beanie. It seems to have this kind of point off the top, and I think he might have a ponytail as well. We can see it looks like he's wearing blue jeans and a brown sweater, and that's about it. I zoomed in on this stuff. I tried to sharpen it up. This is about the best that I could get on it. And to be fair, we don't know that this person is actually related to this case. We're missing that next component, which should be, if he was pacing around back and forth here and he was waiting for her, then she should have run out and met up with him, and you would think that that might be captured on camera as well, unless he wasn't really pacing. He had passed this house going to the location where he was going to meet up with her, which that's kind of where my gut's leaning. It seems kind of coincidental to me. Admittedly, I don't know where this neighborhood is. I don't know if there's a lot of businesses around the area, maybe bars that would have been letting out and people are kind of walking home from that. I don't know what the practicality of someone walking down her street at 3 a.m. on the same night where she disappears from home, and the timing of her phone shutting off or the location being disabled at 3:27. It seems stronger than coincidence from my point of view. Once they started working the case, of course, family is talking to her friends. They do find out that she was talking to an older guy on Discord and Yubo. Now, Yubo, I'm not super familiar with. I looked into it a little bit here. And what I'm surprised by on that is Yubo is apparently an app. It's very strict that it's not for dating. Like its front page just screams that all over the place. Not for dating, friendships, for friendships. But apparently it uses some type of age gating where it basically helps you find people that are the same age as you. So it's interesting to hear she was talking to an older guy, but I don't know if maybe he faked his age on Yubo so that he would be talking to younger people. I don't know. Something along those lines is certainly possible. So off this lead, it looks like the PI team also checks. There's a school that is around this location as well. And thankfully the school okays them to review their footage. In that footage, they see a black SUV that's leaving the area around this time frame, but they can't make out the plate on the black SUV. So they ask the Fort Worth PD, well, can you go and check your traffic cameras? Because we know we've got this vehicle that's leaving the area. Check your traffic cameras, see if we can get that plate. Well, Fort Worth PD says they need a warrant. So I looked into this a bit more too. In Texas, police don't actually need a warrant to view live traffic camera footage because basically it's considered public and there's no reasonable expectation of privacy. However, a warrant or subpoena is likely required to access retained or archived footage, particularly if it's held by a third-party entity. And I know, like when traffic cams started issuing tickets and stuff, this became a kind of a hot topic because there's usually another company that's doing that stuff on behalf of police. Basically, there's private companies that have contracts to handle the speed or red light cameras that enforce traffic laws. So it's interesting because they have an agreement with police. I'm pretty sure that when they make that agreement, they could just say, hey, by the way, you're going to give us access to everything anytime we ask for it. We don't know about this particular agreement or this particular instance. I can see why the family is frustrated because it seems like Fort Worth PD doesn't want to be super helpful in this case. They're just kind of doing the minimum of what can be done here. And I get it. Like, we're talking about a huge metropolitan area, and tracking down a teenager in that is certainly going to be a big challenge. But does this lead seem reasonable to you guys, that maybe it should be looked into a little more strongly? At least try to get the subpoena? There's kind of enough pieces here that a judge might okay that, especially for something like that. Like, oh, you want traffic cam footage? Like, whose rights are we impeding on with that? Sure, go get it. Anyway, so on top of all this, Samantha actually pays for her daughter's cell phone. She checked with the provider, Cricket Wireless, and Cricket Wireless basically will not allow access to text or call information, even for the account holder. I've heard that they just don't track that information, and even if you're the account holder, they're just not going to give it to you. So Samantha asked Fort Worth PD, is there something you guys can do? Can you try to subpoena those records? Get a warrant for them? They won't. Other shortcomings that Samantha has run into with PD: she's never seen the detective assigned to her daughter's case in person, only spoken to him on the phone. In at least one instance, she got hung up on. There are other electronics that were left in the home, like I mentioned, a laptop. The family can't access it due to the password on it, and police won't process it. Local news was preparing to do some coverage on this, and they stopped. The family asked why, and basically the person they were working with said, we were told that law enforcement has a video of her packing a bag. Her mother spoke to the detective assigned to the case. He says, I don't know what you're talking about. That doesn't exist. So a lot of issues that are going on with this case. Around all that, something else strange has happened. Sarah's social media accounts were deactivated except for one Instagram account, and that has shown no activity since her disappearance. Why? Why is someone going to the effort of shutting down her accounts? I don't know. But I think it's important that we make sure that her image is out there and public, so that people know that she's being looked for. Because it seems like someone's concerned about her image being out there. Is it her? Possibly. Is she trying to remove any trace of her? Maybe. But there could be other things happening here too. Her family's concerned that this could be a trafficking situation, and they've looked for help on that. You may remember a woman on this channel before named Jody Voice Yellowfish. We featured her in our special episode, The Uncovered Missing, about the MMIW epidemic. She is now working with Sarah's family to help keep hope alive and raise more exposure. Keep in mind, Sara is part Hispanic and part Navajo. And that would lead to an article over at D Magazine that starts off with kind of the important details, talks about Sarah's disappearance, and then leans in a little bit more into Jody's story. Jody Voice Yellowfish, chair of the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, or MMIW Texas Rematriate, says Sara is just one of more than 5,000 American Indian women and girls who go missing in the United States each year. That's why she does this work, helping families like Sarah's navigate an often hostile and unwilling system. Now, admittedly, this article goes on to talk about one of the first times someone reached out to Texas MMIW Rematriate for help, and that turned out to be a trafficking situation. So this is something that Jody is familiar with. Yellowfish said Native American women are often prime targets for human trafficking. Because of our look, people mistake us for different races all the time, and that's a plus for a trafficker, she said. Of course, the family continues to remain optimistic that Sara will be found safe. It's mainly praying and not letting those negative things take over, her mother said. And her mother has a message for Sara and anyone else that might be with her. Just call somebody. Call home. We just need to know that she's okay. We need to hear her voice and to let her know that we all love her and that we miss her. Her mom made a post on her personal Facebook page on June 29th saying, "It's been 6 painful months. I'm not sure how to feel these days. I have no sense of time. My days just sort of mesh together, and I go about my routine feeling numb, thinking where you could be. The smell in your room has grown stale. It no longer smells like vanilla. It's quiet and feels empty. I go there to feel close to you and to speak to you, hoping you'll hear me. I don't know if I will see you again or hear your voice, but I won't stop trying to find you. One of your favorite holidays is this week, and I will miss seeing your excitement ready to blow stuff up, as you would say. Selena misses you terribly. She's growing up and hopes you come back soon so y'all can do the sister thing together again. I pray that I find you or that you find your way back to me. I miss you, and I love you, Sara." Now, of course, having a private investigator, and I believe there is a $10,000 reward, does not come for free, and her family is asking for support. There is a GoFundMe running on this. I will be making a donation to it just as soon as I'm done filming here today on behalf of myself and, of course, our amazing supporters. Of course, with the trafficking concerns, the family is now focused on finding proof of life. One friend mentioned that Sara might have gone to California, and there was a Discord contact they located who thought she went to Stockton, but the PI's investigation in that area yielded no results. Now, I know that Samantha is certainly going to be watching this, and for years I've been hosting information on what to do and expect in cases like this over at missingpersontips.com. So here are a few suggestions that I think might be helpful in this case. Samantha, I know you're upset with the detective, and it sounds like you have many reasons to be, but please don't let that frustration take energy from the other things that you can do to help move this case forward. And keep in mind that if we really do find a criminal act being a part of this, you're going to need Fort Worth PD. Right now, we don't know how deep all of this is going to go, despite what the detective might currently be assuming. So we want to try to make sure that you have every team member available for whatever the future holds on this. And one way, Fort Worth PD is part of that. There's just no way around that, unfortunately, with this case. Now, I don't know if you've kept Sara's cell phone active. Personally, I would, and I'd be calling it 4 times daily. And if it rings during any of those, you'll know that you've just tagged its position. We know that they won't go after the records right now, but again, I'm thinking down the road, if we need that information later, you know that it's there, and then we'll be able to have them go for it and get it. Now, I went looking, I didn't find a Facebook group or page specifically for this case. And especially in light of someone, maybe her, trying to remove themselves from social media, I think we want to try to counter that as much as possible, but also give supporters of yours a place to rally and show that support. And maybe a place where Sara can see everyone that cares about her and what they're saying. Now, to me, there's 2 big problems that stick out with this case. The response that you're getting from the detective, of course, and the press. And look, I get it. It's easier for all of us to imagine that this is some sort of Romeo and Juliet fantasy rather than a trafficking situation, or even worse. But I think there's a way to address both of these shortcomings in one shot, and you have the perfect companion already on your team to help you do it, Jody. I would suggest a respectful gathering in front of the police department on Sara's birthday, combining the focus of MMIW awareness and Sara's case specifically. Let all the news channels, radio stations, local newspapers know in advance what's happening so they can get staff and cameras there. And I would slightly shift the narrative at that point towards Sara is now 18. There's no reason for her to be in hiding. Something must be wrong. Anyway, there is much more information over at missingpersontips.com. And if you are ever facing a situation like this, please literally start there. It's broken down in terms of what to do down to the first minute of someone going missing. From there, first hour, first day, first week, first month. It's all been broken out there step by step for you. So what's the current status on Sara's case? there is a $10,000 reward. But Blackfish Intelligence says that they're just not getting any tips right now. And that's why we need your help to raise awareness to this case. There's only that one article, that one episode of On Live PD, a 3-minute segment, one great YouTube long form interview video, and now this video. We need your help raising exposure. We need you to hit the upvote, hit the downvote, leave a comment, basically tell the algorithm to show this to more people. Plus, if you have friends in that area, please share this video with them. And of course, if you're the person that has information that can help locate Sara Isabel Martinez, please contact Blackfish Intelligence at 1-800-403-8024. You can also visit them at blackfishintel.com and leave a message through there. Of course, if you're aware of any criminal aspect involving this case, please also contact the Fort Worth Police Department at 817-392-4222 and report it to them as well. Again, a very big thank you to Zane at Trial Junkies United for helping me on the research for today's episode and for reaching out. She was so motivated by this case and trying to help it. This episode would not exist without her. So please give Trial Junkies United a look and give Zane some support. Let her know that you're part of the Brain Scratch Searchlight community and you respect and appreciate what she did for this case here today. I also want to give a very big thank you to our PayPal supporters and our patrons, including new members Nikki Bella, Carrie, and Kelly C. You might have noticed that we don't jam these presentations with commercials. We can only do that because of your amazing support and also making donations like we do here today. If you'd like to become a supporter, please visit lordandarts.com. There you can sign up for Patreon, sign up for PayPal, buy merchandise, or even just buy us a coffee like Candy and Sadie do every single month. Thank you so much for joining us here today, and please join us again next week for another mystery right here on the Lord and Arts channel.